Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this napkin holder. Now this thing came out great, I'm really pleased with it. This is a modern design, but you may say napkin holder, that's not very fun. And you're right, it's holding napkins, it's not really meant for holding napkins. It needs to hold something better, and I'll share that with you at the end of the video. But I did originally design this to be a napkin holder, and now it's adapted for something else. But you can use it for plenty of items, pictures, and all different sorts of things. So at the end of the video, I'll share what I'm going to use this for, so let's get into building this. It was definitely a really fun build, so let's go. Alright, and here I'm just starting by cutting the base out of oak, and I'm also going to use some oak for the side, so I'll cut that now. And I'm now cutting angles into the base piece. What I've done so far is I cut a 45-degree angle here. This angle doesn't really matter, this is just for decoration. Now over here I have a 22.5-degree angle on both the oak and the walnut, and that makes a 45 here. Now what I'm going to do next is cut a 45, I'm not sure how well you can see that pencil line, there it is. I'm going to cut a 45 there, and a 45 on a piece of maple here, and I'm going to wrap it back around this way. And so I will be back once I've done that. I cut those two 45-degree angles here, and what I found out is this piece of maple is a little bit thicker than this walnut and oak. So I'm going to have to thin this down before I go to the next step, but also I need to cut this 22.5-degree angle here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, and I'm now cutting a 22.5-degree angle on this piece of oak. I'm now cutting a piece of walnut down to hold the napkins. So here's what we have so far. Now this part is the base. This is going to be what sits on the table, and it's going to sit up like that. Now basically this thing is what holds the napkins. So the napkins are going to sit on it, and there's going to be some rails on the side. Now these angles here are just for decoration, just because there's other angles in this, and I think it kind of looks good. So what I'm going to do next is take this piece, and I'm going to half lap them so that it sits just like this on there, and it'll be a nice strong joint and nice and square. Alright, so you can see here I just put some masking tape around it just to hold together for now. And you can see it's coming along pretty well. So the next thing I need to do is something to hold the napkins up. Now I was originally thinking something on both sides, but it'd be a little uneven and I don't think it would look as good with something on both sides. So I decided I think I'm going to take this piece of maple that I have left over with this 22.5-degree angle on here, and I think I'm just going to glue that right on here and just cut this a little bit with another 22.5-degree angle, just so that it's just a little bit taller than the napkins, and that will make it rest up against here, and then make a little ledge here so that the napkins don't slide off this way. Alright, so what I've done here is I've tilted my blade to approximately 22.5 degrees. Now what I'm doing is cutting out this block, and I'm just cutting out a notch that will hold this at about a 22-degree angle so the napkins won't slide off the front. Alright, and so here it is. Now we're getting ready to glue it up. But as you can see, I got this notch cut out in there, and really what matters here is that this makes a 90-degree angle, and that'll meet up nicely with the corner of your piece of wood that you have in the front here, and this one makes a pretty good 90-degree corner. I used a square like this one just to take one side and then trace out the other. As you can see, it's pretty square, it's a little bit off, but that doesn't really matter too much, and this will fit on like that. And then this will go on the back, and the napkins will set in there. So now I'm going to go ahead and start gluing all of this. really simple spline jig. It's super basic. I just made it in about a minute and a half. And I'm going to put some splines in this piece to reinforce it, and so I'm going to throw one on this side, and one's going to be walnut and one's going to be maple. So I glued in 2 splines, and yes, I know I said I would do one in maple and one in walnut, but I ended up cutting a spline that was too small, and I didn't really want to look at those gaps, and then I ran out of, what's it called? Maple. There we go. I ran out of maple, so I just decided to do 2 of these, and it was just going to be easier this way. I already had enough, so I threw 2 of those in, and we're good there. So I'm just going to let that dry. Now you're looking at me because I forgot to film the rest of the gluing and finishing work, so I don't have any clip for this scene, except for this one. Alright, there it is, the completed napkin holder. This thing came out great. It really does have a modern design, which was my goal, and there's a couple things that I need to point out before I move any further, but first of all, I made this piece up here. This used to just be a little block with this notch cut out in it so it would sit on here, and that did not look good. I didn't know really what to do, and I ended up finally deciding to take it to the table saw again and cut an angle right here, and this looks really good. I'm really happy with that angle there. So that's definitely that definitely makes it look a lot better. And also, for the final design that it is now, I added a little stabilizer because although it is good for napkins, it's quite tippy once you get a little bit more weight up here, so just to be safe I added this little piece, which is pretty simple. You can really see all it is just a piece of wood with this notch cut out and some angles cut on it. So basically what this started out as is it started out as a napkin holder, and pretty good napkin holder, except for it didn't really work outside because the napkins wanted to tip over forward, so not great for windy conditions, but it could be used indoors as a napkin holder. Next, my mom actually said, hey, this would be a good business card holder, and it was a little bit big for business cards, and after that she said it'd be a good picture holder, and it did fit a picture very well that we got while we were on our trip in France. That's just about as long as this piece of walnut here and just about this tall, so it fit really nicely in there, and after that that was before it was finished. I took it outside to finish it, and my neighbors were walking around the street, and they said, hey, that would be a great book holder, and it would be good for that too, but I finally decided on one last thing that also fits in here really well, and that is an iPad mini. Now this iPad fits perfectly in here. It just sits beautifully in there, both this orientation or this orientation, and I'm really happy with this. It fits perfectly, and my sister then pointed out, hey, this would be perfect to hold an iPad for looking at online recipes while cooking. And I think that this, if you were to go into a store, I would look at this and say, hey, that's that purpose. So, or that's what this is used for. So this is really what its main use is going to be now. It's going to sit in the kitchen and hold the iPad for online recipes. And it came out really good. So I'm extremely happy with how this came out, and I can't wait to see all the use that it's going to get in the next couple of years.